You welcome back to our front. My name is Raymond Dakwa. Let's go to the phone lines and speak to the Director of Elections of the NDC. The first conversation was whether or not Mahama Yariga, the Member of Parliament for Bako Central, felt he was being persecuted by the suit that's been filed by the special prosecutor in this particular case. In all the four, he's not alone. He's with one other gentleman. The gentleman is one he dealt with on one of the cars and the elements that he's being charged with. And all of the four elements he's been deemed to have been in some case, abused his office to make sure that he evaded fraudulently, evaded taxes related to his office, and that's what is supposed to be the major charges against him. The special prosecutor is pursuing him on these charges. But let's switch on to the other element. Now, the Electoral Commission chairperson is actually insisting that the claims by former President Mahama that the NDC is not excited by her current actions and that they are not convinced she will be an independent arbiter in the next election are not supposed to be held to be true. According to her, all the clear-cut indications in the office indicates that everybody in that particular office can pursue this matter, can actually monitor and make sure that the right people are in office and the right issues are dealt with the way they ought to be dealt with. This is where she's coming to say that if history suggests right, it cannot be possible that she, even if her father has contested the election, would be in the position to rig the elections, will be in the position to compromise the electoral process, and this is on the heels of actions that the NDC believes the Electoral Commission is taking. Let's speak to the Director of Elections of the NDC. Elvis Afriyanka, you're welcome to our front.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and good evening to all our listeners.
Now, let's start on the plate where the Electoral Commission is convinced that not only does history suggest that it is impossible for she herself or the commission currently constituted to do anything untoward when it comes to the elections, she's also convinced that there are proper systems in place right from the lower levels straight up to where she sits in her office to make sure that anybody can monitor and properly follow the process without any difficulty at all. Is the NDC now convinced that by her assurances, every single act will go right in the next election?
I think that it will be an oversimplification of very complex issues to say that because the chairperson has assured verbally, therefore everything is hunky-dory. It doesn't work like that. A system is as good as its robustness and the vigilance of the stakeholders in ensuring that the system works. So I'll give you practical case studies. So we go for an IPAC meeting, an item that is not on the agenda. After the meeting, it is put out in the public domain that we went and discussed the creation of a new biometric register. Something that was not on the agenda, that was not discussed. And if the political parties raise issues about that, we are not just crying foul, but these are genuine issues. Number two, they are going to do a limited registration exercise. This is not the first time that we are having a limited registration exercise. The exercise was done in 2014. The target was 1 million votes, 1 million people. The EC achieved about 85%. In 2016, there was another limited registration exercise. The target was 1.2 million people. The EC achieved 90%. Then in 2018, for the new region, in 47 districts, they used this particular system that they want to use. And their target was 100,000. Per our estimation, it should have been around 225,000. And nonetheless, even with their 100,000 target, they achieved 47%. So we're saying that if you use the same method, what it implies is that we are reducing the number of polling stations from 6,000 to 250. That is from 100% to less than 5%. It doesn't matter how you go about it. You are going to run into difficulties, and you are going to disenfranchise people. Again, the EC tells us that their target, on paper, they said their target was 300,000 people. At the last IPAC meeting, they told us their target was 500,000 people. We asked them the basis for that targeting. They couldn't give us any scientific basis. Raymond, after I speak to you, I'll send you an email or a WhatsApp. We went to the statistical service and got data from the statistical service about people who are 10-18 from the last limited registration exercise. And the total is about 1.7 million. So what is happening is that by targeting 500,000 people, the EC ab initio is going to disenfranchise 1.2 million people. This is statistics. So, you see, it's not about coming to speak English or give assurance verbally. The assurance must be matched by action. If you're giving all the assurance, swear on the Bible, Quran, and Torah, and at the end of the day, the actions that you take tend to disenfranchise people, then you are creating situations and conditions that will not make the election free and fair. Now, when we talk about an election that is rigged, it is not just that you go and vote twice or you go and manipulate the figures. I think it's very simplistic to say that is how an election is rigged. One of the ways by which an electoral system can be manipulated is by voter suppression. So, for example, the EC says they're going to do this registration in 250 districts. And then they said they're going to add some selected areas. Selected by who? We don't know. Where are those areas? We don't know. Again, they told us that the reason why they don't want to use the electoral areas and the BVR and BVD equipment is because those equipments are obsolete. They describe them as portmanteaus and that they are very expensive to maintain. And then, in the same vein, you say you are going to deploy some of these same very equipment that you say they are obsolete and they are like portmanteaus. First of all, how many of those equipments are available? We do not know. I don't know if you know. How many, where are you going to deploy them? We do not know. By law, they are supposed to gazette where they are going to do all these things 21 days before the process takes place. It's going to take place on the 7th. So they've already, they have about, if you add 9 days to 7 days, that is 16 days. So they should have done this 5 days ago. Now, they claim they have done the gazetting. If you do the gazetting will then determine where you want to use as your registration center. I can tell you on authority, it was only yesterday and today that they started consultations with our district, in the district and in the various regions, that is regional IPACs and district IPACs, to ask where they can send their supplementary and mobile equipment. So, you see, there is no transparency. Things are not clear. As a political party today, as we speak, I don't know if our opponents on the other side, they have information, but we do not know. 7th is just around the corner. We don't know where they are going to deploy the extra equipment. So these are issues that we are raising. Again, when they talk about what we see is that they are trying to do a new biometric register through the back door without bringing it to the IPAC for us to discuss. That is why when we went for a meeting, that biometric register was not on the agenda. They tried to push it back door, and we spoke against it. Now, she's insisting that the reason why they cannot use the mobile equipment, the BVR and BVD, is because there's going to be a new register next year. That register issue has not been discussed exhaustively. We are saying that there is no problem with the current biometric register because the current biometric register has in itself an inbuilt self-correcting mechanism. Why do I say so? If, for example, for any reason, somebody was 14 years old and somehow managed to be registered because the fingerprint cannot determine your age. The person registered in 2016. By now, the person, or 2014, the person would be of age today. So automatically, that system takes care of itself. Again, if somebody dies, nobody can use the person's fingerprint to go and vote on the person's behalf. So that is why a lot of time, energy, and expense was spent on this biometric register so that it becomes the last of biometrics. Again, they are saying that it is not compliant to facial recognition technology. We are saying that the system has an inbuilt mechanism for it to be facial recognition compliant. Why am I saying that? When the MPP in opposition raised issues that there were similar names between our register and that of the Togolese register, they used facial recognition software to be able to determine. So we know, our technology experts have told us that with less than $5 million, you can purchase software and attach it to this current biometric register, and it will be facial recognition compliant. In any case, she's saying that there has been some consultant who has come to do the assessment, and the consultant has made recommendations.
Okay.
As intelligent people, it is only fair and proper that she shares that information with us. When you share the information with us, then we'll be able to make informed inputs and decisions. We have not seen that consultant report, so we are just like robots. You come and tell us there's a consultant report, and then we'll just take it like that. So I think it's an oversimplification. Now, coming back to the
But before you move on to, forgive me, before you move on to the other issues you actually did, you want to talk about in this case, she's also explained that currently the people who are running our biometric registration system, the people who did the registration predominantly in the year 2012 and after that particular period, that's the 2011 one going into 2012 and after that, they are non-Ghanaians who are keeping your biometric data. Are you comfortable with that?
Is it about comfort or it's about practicality? Haven't we given the whole Ghana electricity to PDS? So let's be serious. Are they performing? They had a contract to perform. If there are issues with the contract, you look at it and determine. So for me, it's a red herring. That is neither here nor there.
The fact that the Data Protection Act has specific provisions on the protection of data, does it not worry you that your data...
I think this is a red herring. They cannot answer the issues, and they are just throwing it to obfuscate the issues. There are germane issues. If indeed you have data protection issues, all you have to do is to get into an agreement with the people, or amend the agreement, and make sure that the back end is controlled by your own people. I don't see, this is a red herring. So let's get down to the main issues.
Now okay, proceed, yeah.
Yes. So that is why the former president said that by their posturing and their attitude, he has cause for worry. And I have been a living witness to some of the things that have been going on. And for me, if they will change their attitude and change their posturing and become more open and transparent at IPAC, let us know exactly what is going on. Rather than, resorting to all these backhand things, you won't even give us information, then you come and put it in the public domain when we ask questions, then I'll give you examples. So, for instance, the very first IPAC meeting under their administration, the NDC was given only 45 minutes notice. And we were going to discuss very critical issues. Later on, the EC apologized, but we were never given the opportunity to raise the issues that we wanted to raise. Again, and I am sorry that I have to do this, but you see, the Bible says that all things are permitted, but not all things are acceptable. You understand me? When you are holding such a sensitive position like this, you have to be careful with the association. So I don't want to go into details, but I'm sure people understand.
No, I don't get what you mean by that. I mean, if it's not defamatory, if you think that it is not...
No. I mean, she was attending parties with other government political appointees. That is not.
But is that a substantive point a political party would want to raise about the chairperson of the Electoral Commission?
It is a lack of discretion. It is a lack of discretion.
That she attended parties which had in attendance other people from government too?
Yes, political activists. Yes, it is. It is a lack of discretion. More, apart from that, I've told you about the IPAC meeting.
Forgive me. The laws of discretion in this country says that she must be fair, candid, and reasonable in the performance of her duties. She should not be capricious in the performance of the duties. In what way that attending any of these social gatherings constitutes an unfairness or not being candid with you, the parties involved, possibly in the next election?
We have cited that as one of the examples of the lack of discretion. There are many more. But Manasari, one of the commissioners, is on record to have described the NDC as a threat to Ghana's democracy. This is a referee between us and Kotoko. And he comes out public to say, as for House of Folk, they are never a good team. They can never win a match. That is also lack of discretion. You don't make those statements. Granted that in the past you were a TESCON, patron, or whatever it is. The moment you are appointed an electoral commissioner, you must pledge yourself of that kind of posture. So you don't make those statements against the biggest opposition party in the country. You see? So it is important that they look at how they, again, the same Osman Asari said that the EC will no longer supervise the internal elections of the NDC. Why? Because we criticized him on issues. And so he got angry and said that the EC will no longer supervise the internal elections of the NDC. He had forgotten in anger that the EC was bound by law to supervise the internal elections of all political parties. You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
So all these are issues that we think that, look, and more importantly, on the current issue of the biometric register, scientific evidence is clear. You cannot manufacture it. It's not faith. You don't need a prophet to tell you that if you reduce the number of points of registration from 6,000 places at electoral areas and you reduce it to 250, definitely from 100% to less than 5%, you are not going to get any better results. You tried it in the referendum in 47 districts. You got less than 50%.
I get you.
So now you are saying that you're going to add some districts.
Okay.
You have not told us the district. You claim you have gazetted. The gazette must include that information. We don't know anything about it. And the registration is on the 7th. So are we going to know a day before or when?
It looks like you have a very short time to call for any major change in this particular policy. It doesn't look like the Electoral Commission is going to change its mind anytime soon. Are you considering the option of courts?
You see, when you say that, it's as if the Electoral Commission is a private entity that will determine what it will do. The Electoral Commission is serving the interests of Ghanaians.
Certainly and mandated to have a neutral role in the election.
What we are saying is in the interest of Ghanaians. When you are going to conduct an exercise whereby the very system and modalities that you put in place ab initio, without anything, 1.2 million Ghanaians are going to be automatically disenfranchised.
I get you, but
I think that is a matter that the Electoral Commission should just do what they want.
No, specifically, I want from you. What can you do now? What can the NDC do now? Are you exploring the court option? Are you exploring other means of trying to cajole them?
All options are on the table. All legal options are on the table, including talking and educating people. Because it appears to us that many people do not understand the issues. And that is why we keep on talking about it, so that people will understand. And the media, as the vanguard of the rights of the people, will also pick it up and not see an NDC issue. Because this 1.2 million people that are going to be registered, you don't know who they are going to vote for. But they are Ghanaians, and they have a right as Ghanaians to be voted for. They are decided court case on this matter. The right to register is an inalienable fundamental human right.
Okay.
It's important that media, civil society, all interested parties take an interest in this matter. Because when 1.2 million people are denied the opportunity to register and they cannot express their mandate, they cannot express their right to vote, that is a recipe for trouble.
I guess I have to let go now. Thank you so much for joining us. But even before you go, can I explore the fact that you are a former Minister of Sports to ask you about this particular standoff, which seemed to have been resolved with Asamoah Gyan, the intervention of the president, and the captainship of the Black Stars?
No comment.
I guess we still can let you go now. Thank you so much for joining us. The Honorable Elvis Afriyie-Ankrah is the Director of Elections of the opposition NDC. Folks, that's where we tie the nice ribbons on today's edition of Upfront. Many thanks to you for joining us on this one.